Amigos? I am Rodolfo Ramos, Bradesco BBI's Mexico strategist, and welcome to This What's What in Mexico, our bi-weekly video product to give you our latest views. So as you can see here, we're in the beautiful Mexico City with a magnificent view. Thanks to our friends at Franklin Templeton. Luis Gonzalez made this possible, so thanks to all the Franklin Templeton team. And for this occasion, we have a very special guest with us. We have Kenneth Smith Ramos, one of the chief negotiators of the now USMCA, at a very critical time for us to discuss everything that has to do with trade, tariffs, given the current juncture with the Trump administration. So as usual, we're going to be covering three topics here, three questions that I'm going to be throwing here at Ken for us to get his views there. So kicking off here with the first question, Ken, we would like to see how credible and how likely do you think Mexico is to face tariffs in this time around?
Well, thank you very much, Rodolfo. It's great to be here. Well, I do think we have to take seriously the threat by President Trump to impose tariffs. He did it in 2018 when he imposed on the entire world tariffs on steel and aluminum under arguments of national security. So we've gone through that. At the time, Mexico and Canada retaliated because any increase in tariffs represents a violation of the agreement. That would be the case for the USMCA. And even just a couple of days ago, I mean, we're seeing the seriousness of the threats by President Trump when he threatened to impose those same 25% tariffs on Colombia when they refused to receive a plane that was coming into Colombia from the United States with undocumented migrant workers from that country. So I think we do have to take it seriously. I don't believe that he is likely to impose tariffs at the level that he has threatened to do, 25% across the board on all products, because that would amount to essentially suspending the USMCA, and that would cause an immediate economic impact in the US, which requires products from Mexico and Canada for the productivity of its manufacturing sector. So we may see some tariffs, we don't know when, but I doubt that it will be at the level that he has threatened.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And to the second point here that I wanted to cover, we've heard some noise around the potential early review of USMCA. So what should we expect there? And maybe timeline. I don't know if maybe it's early to tell, but maybe what are your thoughts as to the timeline?
Well, a few months ago, everybody in Mexico was talking about the review in 2026. And all of a sudden, with the threat of tariffs, that's all we've been talking about for the last month. But I do believe that with President Trump coming in with such tariff threats, with a very sort of nationalistic economic program, protectionist in a way, I think the timeline for the USMCA, from the point of view of Mexico and Canada, they should try to maintain it. It's established in the agreement that it will be reviewed in 2026. And so you have to prepare between now and then to agree between three countries as to what are the issues that are going to be dealt with. I would not be surprised, however, if the Trump administration try to push that deadline closer. In other words, that the first step between Mexico and the US would be to talk about immigration and security, try to set up a work plan, specific deadlines and objectives within the next couple of months. And then, before the beginning of second semester in 2025, that we may start to see discussions between Mexico, Canada, and the US regarding the USMCA review.
And too early to talk about nuances or details as to what that review might entail.
Yeah, we've been doing in our firm in Agon, we've been trying to analyze, for example, the different chapters in the USMCA where the US may have suggestions or recommendations or demands to reopen. Anything having to do with China, that's the big obsession in the US, how to contain Chinese products or investment coming into the region. Any chapter having to do with automotive rules of origin, labor, dispute settlement, I think in intellectual property, because of the issues of cybersecurity and trade secrets, violations by China. The U.S. is going to emphasize a lot the issues related to containing China. I think Mexico, and hopefully Canada will do it as well, will emphasize issues that strengthen the integration in North America, that eliminate existing barriers in agriculture, in textiles, in manufacturing, and hopefully we can get to a good resolution of this review.
Okay, no, that's great color. And to close here on our third question, what are some of the key challenges that Mexico faces, and what are the recommendations? Having you negotiated and these agreements, what will be your recommendations to the current Mexican negotiators?
Well, I think we have to be ready for the United States to put on the table all of those issues that they were not able to obtain in the first negotiation of the USMCA. So everything that we either rejected or that together with Canada we were able to dilute, they will come back. You know, remember that Trump was very obsessed, as he is still now, with trade deficits. So at the time, he tried to establish restrictions on our exports on automotive goods, agriculture, textiles, and others. I think they'll come back to the table with that. And I think it's also a challenge that Trump is trying to link up the discussion on trade, so this issue of tariffs, with very complex policy issues such as immigration and security.
Yeah.
So Mexico and Canada have the challenge of trying to dissociate each one of these elements, not negotiate everything in the same table. So if you negotiate trade, immigration, and security at the same time, it'll be very difficult to come to an agreement that I think is profitable for Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. So we have to try to separate the discussions, advance in each area, like President Sheinbaum has said, you know, on immigration, on security, and then leave the discussion for trade for later on in the year, and make sure that we don't backtrack, that we have the same type of opening that we have today in terms of market access, because all of the products that we trade with the United States are free of tariff. We have to make sure that that remains.
Yeah, and that's the region's main competitive advantage, you know, specifically to put a front against China.
Absolutely, and that's a strong argument that Mexico has. If the United States really wants to compete with China and with the rest of the world, the Mexican economy is an essential component of that equation, right? We are U.S. allies. We are the strongest trading partner, number one exporter to the U.S. Together, we are stronger, along with Canada.
Yeah, perfect. No, this has been very helpful, very timely, Ken. So thank you again for your participation here, and thanks everybody for tuning in. And have a productive rest of the week. Take care, amigos. Ciao, ciao.